The following is a discussion that I have with Brian Jepsen. He's the Director of Contact Center Operations at Landry's Restaurants, and at the same time, he's the member of the Board of Directors at the Contact Center AI Association. I hope you'll find it as interesting as I did, so please enjoy.
Thank you, Andre. I appreciate you inviting me here today and share my experiences. And we've had several conversations over the last little bit about your business and your product, and very intriguing what you guys are doing. So very excited for you guys.
Thank you.
So Brian Jepsen, my current position, I'm a director of contact center operations for Landry's. Landry's is most people know us as a restaurant company. We own over 600 restaurants from all kinds of different venues, all the way for our luxury restaurants, steak restaurants, Mastro's, Morton's, The Palm, Del Frisco's, down to our steakhouse, our Saltgrass Steakhouses, our Joe's Crab Shack, Bubba Gump's. So we have a pretty broad range of restaurants. We also own the Golden Nugget Hotels and Casinos. Majority of what I do is reservations for the Golden Nugget Hotels and Casinos. I've been here about 10 years. I've been in the industry for probably, it's been over 30 years now. So started out as an agent and just worked up through that time. So both as captive in-house contact centers, and then I moved over to in the BPO space and worked in the BPO space for several years, running multiple contact centers and in BPO space. So this was a fun job for me, a fun opportunity. Like I said, 10 years ago, they asked me to build a call center for them, and so we've done that. And obviously we've had a lot of fun doing it. We've faced a lot of challenges, and so we'll probably discuss some of those challenges and how we overcame them today.
Yeah, that's one of the points on the agenda, and thank you for the introduction. It makes it's very useful for me and the audience as well. But I noticed on LinkedIn that you as well have a very nice position at Contact Center AI Associations. So could you please tell me a bit about it?
Sure. We just started this association. A very good friend of mine who I've been in contact with on LinkedIn, John Walter, started this organization, and he asked me to join as a board member. This organization, there's a lot of people out there who are struggling with how do we get the AI, how do I engage AI? AI is a big buzzword out there in the industry, and how do I make that work in my contact centers? There's a lot of different vendors out there and different solutions, and we wanted to create an organization for people to be able to come into and really learn from people who are in-house running contact centers and how they have engaged AI and what things to look for and support and help in building AI within your call center without having the pressure of having a salesperson talking to you, but people with experience. And so that's kind of what we're about.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, and I think it's very useful for the industry. As you know, we also have those AI services, and I feel that in discussions that we have with customers, because many times they look at us as a provider, but they would love to find out more on their own and to be able to get some information just to validate that with what the market offers and everything else. So I really see the value in that. So good luck with that.
Thank you. We actually have our first meeting in Atlanta on the 21st of February. You can go to ccaia.org and find out more information about it, and if you're interested in attending one of our meetings. So
that would be that's amazing. We will also leave the link to it. Is it open for any leader in the industry that's runs its own business in customer support, or how do you manage the attendees?
So we do invite, well, mostly it's for leaders, contact center leaders, mostly internal contact centers, people who run internal contact centers, to just collaborate with others in the same industry and the same processes. We do invite vendors to at times to join us in there too, and provide information for us for our members. But yeah, it's open to anybody to join and solicit and come to our events. And
so it's only physical events, right? You don't do it online. You're not.
No, it's just we're going to do physical. We have 3 different locations where we're going to have chapters. Our first chapter is in Atlanta. We'll have one established in New York and also one in San Francisco. So kind of get around where people in those areas can get a chance to come and spend some time with other people and facing the same challenges.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the details. So if we are at AI, I think that's one of the big subjects, as you've told. Could you please share with us a bit about how AI influenced your current practice? What are some of the tools that you've used? How do you see it? But more specifically, how did it help you and your business until now?
Yeah, being in the industry for many, many years, and one of the challenges has always been staffing.
Right.
In any call center, it's very, very common to see attrition, 100% attrition a year, and you're not turning over the entire staff. You're turning over roughly 25% of that staff gets turned over 3 or 4 times. So you turn that bottom staff over and over again. So staffing has always been a struggle in making sure we were handling the calls and answering calls for our customers. But it really became much bigger issue during the pandemic. So during, obviously, I run casino, hotels, and restaurants, and the government shut us all down during the pandemic, and there was we were shut down for about 6 to 8 weeks. One of my properties in Las Vegas, we decided when we opened back up again, we decided we would send these PBX calls, which are very simple calls. Transfers, can you transfer to the restaurant, transfer to housekeeping, what time is check-in, frequently asked questions and transfers.
Right.
There's about 40,000 calls a month of those calls. And we decided, hey, we'll send them to the call center in Houston instead of having them answered on property once we open back up. So I figured I would just hire people to handle those calls. And when we opened back up again, we realized, we were struggling. Nobody wanted to come back to work. It was a tough time, and now I was tasked with handling an additional 40,000 calls on top of my reservation calls, and it was causing my reservation calls to back up. And I was abandoning 40 to 50% of those reservation calls. People waiting 45 minutes to an hour sometimes just to get the call answered, and it was we struggled, and there weren't bodies to throw at it, right? And so I went to my CFO and said, hey, we need to do something different because we can't find bodies for this. He said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, let's look at AI. So I started kind of looking around different companies who handled AI business and who was out there. And my main concern with when I first went into AI was I wanted it to be a good experience. We've all had bad experiences with a virtual assistant that answers the phone and it tell me in one word what you want, and you just want to speak to an agent, right? And it's just bad robotic experience.
Right.
And I didn't want to have that type of experience with my customers. I wanted to be better. And so as I looked through, listened to many vendors and demos, trying to figure out who had the best voice, and I found that most of them were using the same robotic AWS voice that they were using. That's not the experience I wanted. So I found a company that that came to me and said, hey, we can do whatever you want. And they were based in the UK. And so they did a first demo for me. And it was for my restaurants and my Saltgrass restaurant, which is a Texan steakhouse. And they used a nice British female voice to do a to-go order, which was nice. But I said, hey, that doesn't really, it's not relatable to my Texas steakhouse. So can you do something a little more? Can you do something more Texan for me? So he came back and the next day and they had an answer and they said, "Howdy, thank you for calling Salt Gas Steakhouse." And so at that point, what I realized is that this company knew how to give me a better experience. And I said, here's 10 calls of my best agent. Can you make it sound like my best agent? So they came back with a voice that sounded just like my best agent. They used live talent. I don't know if you want me to share my partner who I'm using.
Yeah,
but,
sure. Shout out to them and let's
So
somebody else gets help.
it's Poly AI is the partner I chose, and they were based in the UK, and then we were the first client in the US, and so we've expanded and grown. They've grown significantly since, but just gave me a great voice to do. I said, here's my best agent. Make it sound like that. They came back with a voice that sounded like my best agent, and I said, okay, let's go. So we deployed the bot in about 4 weeks to be able to answer these 40,000 simple calls. And I was hoping for it to handle 40 to 50%. And day one, it handled well over 80% of those calls. And dropped my abandons. Right? Yeah, it was incredible. I was very impressed. And it dropped my abandons on my reservations to under 10%. People were waiting before, like I said, 45 minutes to an hour. Now, I was answering the calls within a couple minutes. And so just really made a much better impact on my customers, right? It's all about how do I give a better customer experience, make it easier for my customers to do business.
So it really made sense for you to, so AI came and helped you.
Yes.
Yeah. What I want to touch base on is you said that those you've mentioned the HR challenges that you've had during pandemic period, but what I've also seen in the industry is that once companies start to use products which are richer in AI functions or have better ways to help the agent, to augment the agent, attrition rates tend to drop. Is that something that you've felt? Is it real? Is it happening everywhere, or is that just a feeling that I had? It's not necessarily grounded in your experience.
Yeah, I think call centers are challenging, and a lot of it's just pounding with calls. So how do you, from an HR standpoint, how do you give your agents better tools to do their business, better knowledge, train them more effectively? And I think doing those types of things makes them happier about their job and reduces attrition. And, from the AI perspective, like I mentioned to you, is now it's handling over 30. We've expanded it to full reservations, and it does a lot of things now, additional more use cases. But it handles over 35% of my calls, so I've just been able to reduce about 25% of my staff, and that's that 25% that we kept turning over and over again. And what I saw by doing that is my attrition dropped significantly. It dropped in half, and so it really saved us a lot on that side. But to your point, those and my agents that are here that stayed, they're more knowledgeable. They have more tenure. They're able to give a better experience, and I don't have to keep churning that over and over again. And it makes them happier too. And one of the things on making those agents happier is that I pay them an incentive on booking and upselling and things like that. But when they started taking all these just transfer calls, they weren't making any upsells on any of those transfer calls, so it was frustrating for them. When I took those away, now
I get it now. Yeah. So
and then their pay went up too, so it made them happier, and that helps reduce attrition too.
Oh yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So do you think that at some point AI is going to replace some of the agents that we see now in call centers? I think that's a question that everybody has in the back of their head when starting a career in this space, and it's something that some of us are afraid, some of us are looking forward to, but just wanted to hear about your thoughts on it.
I think there's always going to be a segment of people who want to speak to a live person. And there are certain things from a from an AI standpoint, even if you get into generative AI and answering questions, there's certain tasks and more complex issues that are going to require a live person to handle. Over time, will it get better to learn? Yeah, maybe. But what do you do with those agents? Do you repurpose those agents? When I look at it replaced about 24 FTEs of my staff. It wasn't that it replaced those 24. It's just, those are 24 people I couldn't find, right? That I couldn't hire before.
Right.
But as far as replacing, like I said, I think the studies say, I've seen several studies anywhere between 60 to 80% of people think that they want to speak to a live person. But I also know that 100% of the people just want to get their issue taken care of efficiently and effectively as quickly as possible. And I've also seen studies where it say about 60 to 70% of the people don't want to hold online more than a minute before they hang up. So, how do you offer that a solution to those people as quickly as possible? And is it replacing? These typically call center jobs are very low paying jobs, right?
Right.
And they're not as attractive, I guess, as positions. And so, are there other things that we can take and train these people to do other tasks and helping do additional things? And I don't know it's going to replace them. I just look at technology over the centuries of things that have changed, and people say, "Oh, you're going to replace horses with cars." Oh, what's going to happen? Well, look where we're at today. So, times change. Going from the assembly lines stuff to where it is today. It's just things are changing. Everybody will learn to adapt and utilize the tools that make it more effective.
Yeah, and I feel that at the end of the day, you actually want to increase the happiness of your customers, and you want to make sure that you service them as better as you can. And in many situations, this is the main differentiator between businesses. Maybe in your industry, it's a bit different because you have a touch point with the customer all around during the service and the rest. But for the majority of e-commerce companies or customers that we meet daily, more or less, they have the same products, they have the same service. Roughly, the biggest difference that they can make, it's the way in which they interact with their customers, and that's right, through customer service in a part. And in order to do so, you just need to have the correct trained people, and you need to be able to provide that maximum service. So you make sure that you attract new customers and keep the ones that you have. And in many situations, that means that you don't need to make people wait in line for a phone call, but just make sure that when a human answers, it can actually provide the best experience ever, and that's going to stay, I'm sure, as well.
Yes.
So yes, totally on the same page. So how about downsides of AI? What do you feel about that? Because we've spoke a lot about what are the benefits, and everybody talks about them, but how about the downsides?
Well, I think obviously we mentioned, how does it impact people's lives, and trying to figure out how do we repurpose people that we teach AI to do their positions. How do we repurpose them? That's going to be a challenge. I believe one of the biggest challenges right now with AI is, especially you start getting into Gen AI and the guardrails, and not have it hallucinate and start asking it questions, and it goes off and gets all kinds of crazy stuff, right? So how do you train it to stay in its lane and answer the questions and the things that you want it to answer, instead of going off on tangents and talking about stuff it shouldn't. So I think those are challenges that I think we'll get through them and we'll figure it out. I think as anything, sometimes that new stuff comes out and you think of all the great stuff, and then certain people figure out all the bad stuff. And I heard a guy, Nikola, who's the CEO of PolyAI, said it's kind of like it's kind of like a knife, using a knife. He said a knife can be used good to cut vegetables and cut everything, but it may cut your finger also.
Yeah,
So
right.
so it doesn't mean the knife's bad. It just
Right,
means you got
right.
to learn how to use it and control it in the right way to get you your results. So so that's
Very
kind
on
of
spot. Yeah. Mhm.
that's kind of where I see it going. It's going to be challenging, and there's a lot of people. There's some who've got a lot more experience in how to utilize the technology better. A lot of newer people are coming on and trying to figure it all out. So I would say just make sure you if you're looking at it, vet out the people who are doing it and that they have a good background experience.
Yeah, and as well, I think I would add on top of that the fact that companies tend to jump on the opportunity in many situations without spending enough time in really understanding what are the repercussions of changing things. So it's a big change. It can be very effective, as you've said, but at the end of the day, it can also turn and bite you. So it's important to pay a lot of attention and don't jump on the first opportunity to have AI, because it's down the road you may find out that there were better options and you need to get back, and it's costly.
That's true.
At least.
That's definitely true. We started out very small with small use case, easy, simple stuff, and then we said, hey, well, it can do this. What else can it do? And we've learned along the way, and to get better and smarter at how we utilize it. And so don't just jump in and say, hey, we're going to let AI do all this stuff. Set up your guardrails. Know what your limitations are.
Perfect. Yeah, totally agreed. So I think that's for sure one of the skills that the customer support leaders need to acquire in the future. Do you think that there are some others that you would mention? So in this new environment where everything changes, what do you think that are some areas where the customer support leaders would need to focus? What needs to be on their radar in the near future?
I think there's a term that I'm seeing more and more that I really like, and I want to explore and expand it a little more deeper, but it's called return on experience. So we all know about return on investment, right? ROI. But what about ROX? And so
That's nice.
what's
I like it.
What's the experience you're giving people? And you can you can return on your investment. You can say, well, I spent this much and it cost me this much. This is my return. But what's the experience giving you, and how do you measure the experience? I have one of my hotel properties, the Post Oak Hotel here in Houston. Houston's only Forbes 5-star property, and it's obviously the most expensive property hotel in Houston, but it's extremely popular because we give a much higher level of experience, and people are willing to pay for that experience. And so when you start looking at as leaders out there, understanding how do you measure that experience? How do you know what level of competence your agents are giving to your customers? How do you measure their effectiveness? How do you measure? Do you have an agent scorecard that does that, and you can measure the NPS or predictive NPS of the interactions that your agents are giving your customers, and how do your customers understand that? How do you I'm sure most call centers out there are recording their calls, and you have all of that voice data out there. Are you taking that voice data, putting it into text, the speech to text, and analyzing that data and understanding the sentiment, and how are you utilizing those tools to be able to make your business better and to be able to give a better experience to your customers? That's I think that's the key, and I think that's where people should start focusing on. Let's figure out why people call us, and how do we get them the best results or the best information in the easiest way possible for them to be effortless. So
Yeah. That's it's a nice concept. I really like it. Return on experience. So great.
I don't know how to
Um,
measure that yet. That's I
I
think
bet.
we've got to come up with some way to measure the return on the experience and the people that will continue to come back because they had a good experience, and they're gonna continue to pay or pay more because they know the experience is worth it. So
Yeah,
how do you?
most
That's we got to
probably.
figure out a measurement.
I think it's more of an indirect. So we need to find some indirect ways to do that. But that's really something interesting. And I also felt the love for some brands, and it's in many cases it's hard to know why I'm choosing some. To get back to some restaurants, for example, or to some hotels, but I always do it because most probably it's because of return on experience. So
The experience, yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting concept. With regards to your industry, what do you think will be the biggest challenge in 2024?
Boy, I think economy obviously is a big driver, right? A lot of
Mhm.
uncertainty in the economy, inflation. I think that impacts a lot of people. You give a product, you put a product out there that your people again are willing to spend. But I think a lot of people's kind of pinching a little bit, pinching their the penny and trying to understand where they're putting their money. I think that's going to be the challenge for a lot of businesses out there. A lot of uncertainty in the world, and I think all those challenges will potentially have impacts.
Yeah. That's a big one, and I think that happens all across the globe. So it's
Sure.
not necessarily something that's local. Um, Perfect. So, could you please, Brian, recommend us a book for something that you've enjoyed? It would be great if it's related to the customer support space, but where you felt that you got some insight that
Yeah.
helped you in the industry. But at the same time, if it's not and it's just something that you really enjoyed, just share with us.
I think one of the best books I've read that really helped me is a book by Matthew Dixon, The Effortless Experience. That one really helped open my eyes to understand, a lot of studies to see what is it that people really are looking for. How do they, does answering, people think, oh, we need to answer the phone in 20 seconds or less, right? Well, does answering it in 30 seconds versus 20 seconds, does it really increase the experience that much better? So I think sometimes you need to focus on the right things, and just you have to understand your customers and understand
Mhm.
what their their desire to wait or whatever it is, right? You understand your customer and meet their customers' needs and
What
experience. But that
what do you
was
think that brings the most value to your customers?
um I think just simplicity, just to be able to find the easiest way possible to get a reservation. Nobody wants to, in most
Mhm.
cases, nobody wants to call to have something done. They just want to, they want to be, but they have to call because, or use self-service
Mhm.
options. So give them tools to do it the way they want. I would love to be able to, to just get to a point where somebody just, picks up the phone and says, Siri, can you make me a reservation in the Golden Nugget in Lake Charles tomorrow, right? And look at my app and look at my offers, and Siri jumped on when I said that, so I had to turn
I
her
know.
off.
The reservation
But
is already done.
so just to be able to look at my app, look at my offers, look at the availability, take my credit card that's on my phone and book it and just send it back. Hey, there you go, it's done, right? That's as simple as possible. So how do we simplify people's lives and make it easy? So um, those I think are that I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
Yes, it did, and actually, I'm totally with you on this. I think it's important to don't forget what's the end goal at the end of the day, and that may happen. And I've seen leaders actually that are looking at those KPIs, but and trying to keep them in a straight line. Sometimes just forgetting about why we're here for and what's the end goal. So
Right.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's things like answering, handle time. Handle time is another thing. And I, over the years, I think, oh, we got to keep our handle time down. And you know what? I don't know that there's, I don't focus on a handle time anymore. Say your goal has to be this. It's about how long is it going to take you to give the right experience to the customer.
Mhm.
Sometimes people don't want to talk for 20 minutes. They just want their issue taken care of quickly, right? So don't spend a lot of time. Just because your handle time's high doesn't mean it's a good experience, or because it's too low, it's a good experience. Just find the right time, and each customer is going to be different.
Yeah, and I think it's important to measure the right things in general, it's important to put the right questions to
Sure.
to get the best results. Brian, I think that's it.
I appreciate the invite and just hang out and spend some time with you. It's been great.
That's great. Then thank you very much, Brian. Enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you enjoyed it as I did. And yeah, talk to you soon.
Great. Thank you, Andre, very much. Take care.
Have a great one. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.